There are two ways to build assessments in eDoctrina. The first way would be to create an answer key only assessment. The second way would be to build the questions directly into eDoctrina, so then those questions will remain in your school or district's question bank. For this particular video, we will be focusing on creating an answer key only assessment. To begin, I'm going to navigate to the Assessments main button on my home screen. And my first step will be to click the gold Insert button because I'm creating a brand new item from scratch. This will open up our brand new version 2 assessment editor. All fields marked with a red asterisk are mandatory and must be completed. The name for this particular test will be Lauren's Answer Key Only. Since I'm logged in as a district administrator, I'll select my school, but teachers will already automatically be logged into their own school. The date defaults to today. If I plan to give this on another day, I can just simply change the date I plan to give it. The year automatically filters. I'll link my grade and subject and label the type of test that this is. I'm going to leave it as a teacher-made test. I'll also link my assessment to a course. Although this is not a mandatory field, I highly recommend getting into the habit of always linking your assessments to a course. The benefit of doing this is if your assessment is linked to a course and if your email is in eDoctrina and spelled correctly, once your bubble sheets are scanned and processed, eDoctrina will send you an email stating that your data is ready to view. If your assessment is not linked to a course, you will not receive that data verification email. Once I plug in all of my main information on the General tab, I can navigate to my Questions section by either clicking on the Questions tab here or simply just scrolling down from the General area to the Questions tab. You can also view our new assessment editor by selecting the Collapse All option and then picking which area you want to navigate to. Since I'm building an answer key only test, I'll need to move over to the top right corner of my screen, switch out of the Questions and Standards option, and switch into the answer key only option. An answer key only test is basically just building a shell from a test that you've already made or you already have created. It can either be on a Word document, saved on your computer, built in a different program. You may have handouts of it already printed, so you have the hard copies ready to go to give to your students. Before taking any steps in eDoctrina, I would first have to look at my test, decide how many questions are on it, and what types of questions there are. Next, I would click on the Add Questions button in the Questions section of my page. This will open up a tiny pop-up window. My first question is, how many questions would I like to add? If I'm looking at the hard copy of my test, we'll say 10 questions total. Perhaps your test has a variety of questions. Multiple choice, true, false, some short answers. That's absolutely fine. I would highly recommend selecting the type as letter ABC because it's much easier to switch out of that type after all of the questions load. I'll make the answer choices 4, leaving the correct answer as A, and then switch each individual answer, and I'll make them 2 points apiece. Once I click Add, my screen is going to refresh and load all 10 questions. From here, my next step would be to plug in the correct answers for each individual question. So again, I would be referring to my test. Question number 1, the correct answer is A. Question 2, we'll change it to B. 3, we'll change to C. 4 will be D, 5 is A, 6 is A, 7 is D, 8 is C, 9 is B, and then we'll leave 10 as A. If you did have a question that was different than a multiple choice response, you can easily change the type. Perhaps number 10 is a teacher scored question. It requires the student to read an essay and write a short answer response. So I would select teacher scored. I can also change how many points this question is worth. Number 4, maybe this was a true-false question. I can easily change the type and select whether it's true or false. Essentially, from here, you could be done. You can save and close and print bubble sheets for this particular assessment. However, there are a few extra things I'd like to show you. Even though we're not adding actual questions to this assessment, you can still absolutely link standards to individual question numbers. To do that, you would need to switch out of the answer key only view and into the questions and standards view. This screen will keep the number of questions, your point values, your types, and your correct answers, but now you have the standards filter available on the right-hand side. Here, you would filter for the standard set. I'm going to select Common Core for Math, Grade 4, and the substandard of Geometry. Now, based on my assessment, I would be looking at the questions. I can select which standard I want to tie to each individual question. Once I find the standard, it's an easy drag and drop process. For number 1, I would select the standard. Once I click and start dragging, eDoctrina highlights the standards box in green, so I know exactly where to drop it. You are not tied to remain in a particular standard set or subject. You can switch subjects and link both math and ELA standards to one individual question if you so choose. There's also no limit to how many standards you link to a particular question. I'm going to link a few more standards to my questions, and then save any work I made. My next step would be to link a grade conversion table to this assessment. Again, this is not mandatory, although it makes your data reports a little bit harder and easier to read because it allows you to rank how your students are scoring. To navigate to the grade conversion table area, I can simply click on this grade table tab. My screen will scroll all the way down. Your district may have default grade conversion tables preset. These can be completely customized by you for each individual assessment. In my grade conversion table area, I'm going to select Copy the Grade Conversion Table From, and I'm going to select one of my default tables. Here is a basic grade conversion table. This is stating that there are 4 main tiers. These names can be customized, and this table is explaining any student who scores a 60% or less on this exact assessment will be highlighted on the data reports in the color red and in bold font. Again, each field in this table can be customized to meet your needs. You will only see the benefit of the grade conversion table on our data reports. If you do not link a grade conversion table, your data will still print exactly the same way. Once you are finished adding the number of questions, plugging in the correct answers and point values, linking standards if you so choose, and also linking a grade conversion table, you would be done with this particular part of creating the test. You would save and close, navigate to the dashboard, and print the bubble sheets. However, if you wanted to click Save from here, you do have the option of a print test here. You would not select assessment questions since we did not build any questions in eDoctrina. We simply just made the shell. But you do always have the option of printing an assessment map, whether you're actually building the test from scratch or just doing an answer key only like we did. The assessment map will print at the bottom of the test. It will have all of your general information up at the top. It will have your number of questions, your correct answers, and your point values. Also, any standards that were linked to the questions will show as well. Any item you create in eDoctrina is given an ID number. You can find your assessment ID number in a few different places. On the assessment map, if I X out of the assessment map, as soon as you plug in general information into your assessment and save, your test is given an ID number. Also, when I save and close out of my assessment, it's going to bring me back to my assessment's main screen. To easily find my test, I can either search for it by typing in what I named it. Here it is right here. Search for it by ID number. Or the easiest way to find items would be to utilize these reshuffle arrows within the columns. The highest ID number is the newest item that's been created. So I can easily find the test that I just made by sorting from highest to lowest. Once I sort from highest to lowest, my test will be the first to appear at the top. After your test has been created, you can always go back in to make any tweaks or changes that you need to. By clicking on the edit pencil, that will bring you directly back into your assessment. You are free to make any changes.